bottom of the hour, we have our favorite person for the Impact Hour, Mr. Joseph Lee. And we were he texts me stuff off and on. I'll be saying, he said, Ron, another shooting. I look at it, oh my God. I said, when is this going to end? We averaging 2 or 3 a week, and that's ridiculous. We should be averaging 2 or 3 black businesses opening up, people being promoted. It should be all all this negative stuff is pushing the positive stuff out of the way. Like I told you, when you text me something, I said, wow, I don't know what to say.
A lot of times, I don't know what to say either, right? You just can get frustrated, right? But the one in Chicago, right?
Yeah.
Where the 3 babies got killed that I sent you on I-57 near 111th Street, a 1-year-old, a
Yes.
1-year-old, you know what I'm saying? And 2 teenagers. We got to get a hold of this gun situation. This generation, I mean, we can't wait. At the rate that it's going right now, we got mass shooting after mass shooting. It's hard for me to even keep up. I mean, it's becoming a full-time job, to be able to figure out what's going on with the gun shootings and all that horrible stuff. And it's just, everything. I think we have to realize for every person that loses their life, especially every child, there's ripple effects.
Yes.
There's ripple effects, right? And a lot of people think when the Uvalde shooting happened, they were thinking about Uvalde. I went to crisis calls right after shooting, not just in Uvalde, but in San Antonio and surrounding areas, because those kids that were killed have family members. And some of those family members, are supervisors or, working in other communities or whatever, and they're devastated as well, right? So
Yeah.
we've got to understand this is not just when you see death and tragedies like this, it's not just affecting 1, 2, 3 people. It's affecting communities, literally, people that are connected. I mean, how, to how many cousins we have and how many people that are connected. So when you lose a child, lose a group of children or something so senseless, and it's always senseless, something that could have been done. So I'm glad to see that you're doing so many things in the community. We're getting the word out there, but we've got to not just talk about it, but do something about it and start helping to introduce better legislation and holding these politicians accountable. If they don't get it, what's our saying? They got to go. If they are passing irresponsible legislation, they got to go. Start shaming these mugs, shaming their legacy, for putting irresponsible policy that we have to live with and deal with, right? So,
Yeah.
But I do want to talk about something this morning. Hey, Miss Veronica Brooks, we got our book.
Oh, yes.
The Warrior Within, our sister and friend. This book is phenomenal. And from a therapeutic standpoint, I cannot stress this strong enough to go on Amazon, get The Warrior Within, Miss Veronica, Dr. Veronica Brooks. Let me make sure I put it in the camera. Black History Month. Look, we're breaking chains. We are letting people know what's out here. And remember I was saying months ago, what happens in the home stays in the home is one of the biggest lies that we have in our community, right?
Yeah, it
Things
is.
things that happen to our people, things that happen to our young ladies, things that also happen to our young men. It's not about what happens in the home stays in the home, because it never does. People leave the home and the trauma goes with them. The things go with them. And a lot of times these cycles are repeated because the predators that are out here, they're hiding behind things like that. They're hiding behind what happens in the home stays in the home. No, it don't. So I applaud Mr. Dr. Veronica Brooks for Black History Month, a must read. Go get it. You get it on Amazon. My wife read through it yesterday. She hogged it. She read it yesterday. I only got to chapter 6. But I'm telling you, once you start reading it, she does such a great job illustrating her life and what happens and the devastation of predators that are out there. And there's some people that are mad because she's named some names and put some things out there. And you know what? They're just gonna have to be mad. they're gonna have to be mad because when these things happen, we can't protect or shelter predators, pedophiles. They got to
Yeah.
be held accountable. So if we're gonna hold these politicians accountable that are out here, and yeah, Donald Trump, hey, your number's coming up, brother. That that Georgia prosecutor, I'm gonna tell you something. This is a powerful sister right here. Okay. And anytime you offend a powerful sister, guess what? They coming for you. So shout out to my sisters out there that are powerful, that are doing things. And it's interesting that the two people, we talked about this, the two people that are holding Trump's feet to the fire are two queens.
Exactly.
The
Exactly.
two queens. So the prosecutor down there in Georgia just put this together, and they're doing a phenomenal job, a meticulous job laying this thing out. So
Mm.
don't be surprised if 45. I don't know what the Republican Party going to do, but their main candidate being indicted, and possibly maybe I don't know. Maybe you can run a campaign from the county jail. I don't know, or federal court. I don't know, but it'd be interesting. And you know what? And I'm so glad. It's bad, but I'm glad that what's done in the dark is coming to the light with George, with Santos, and all these folks. And this man lies on top of lying. He got to lie for his lies. You know what I'm saying? And it's coming out, man. Like I'm
Yeah.
glad that they are in the forefront of the discussion, so you can see they are so used to lying that they don't even make an apologies for it anymore. Right? The alternative facts. Right? We
Yeah.
got to put them out there so you know what you're voting for. Right? Morality,
Exactly.
ethics count. Nobody's perfect. Right? We're not saying you have to be perfect, but you have to be accountable for your actions. Make amends for your actions. You need to be transparent. Right? And I can't wait till we get into this relationship stuff, and we go ahead and launch the channel. We got some great partnerships coming out. Shout out to Martha. We got to get her, situated. Maybe get her on the show a couple times here soon, and we're going to be working on some collaborations. Can't wait to put that out there, and adding some folks to impact counseling, therapists, and some other life coaches. We got some exciting things that we're going to be doing, and in terms of accessibility, and get some other talent as well in the practice. So I'm excited about that. But
Yeah. I want to go back to Dr. Brooks.
mhm.
I interviewed her last week, and she's going to be on again on Friday.
Outstanding.
What she did that I thought was remarkable is she had them people interview the people she named, so they knew what was coming.
Yeah.
And I thought that because a lot of people will not interview the people that they name in a book. All of a sudden, they come out and start calling falsehoods and lies. But she went on and interviewed them and put their thoughts in the book, so they can't say anything was fabricated.
Listen, this book has the ability to heal and open the door and open the floodgates to what a lot of young ladies have gone through that just have had to hold it in, right? And what people don't understand is when you hold in trauma like that, it does damage. It does damage to you psychologically. It also does damage to you physically.
Yeah.
Women, one of their major contributors to death, or the death rate for women, is heart disease. In our community, cancers. When you hold in trauma and pain like that, it pushes to some of those areas. If physically, then there's also behavioral issues, relationship issues. It's really, I'd say, even demonic. What happens when we hold on to trauma? Psychologically is completely damaging. Physically is damaging. We perpetuate things into other generations. Oftentimes when we don't deal with what we're putting our families through, and then these predators continue to go on living as if everything's okay.
Yeah.
So applaud the strength of our sister, Dr. Veronica Brooks. I can't say it enough. Get the book, read it, know what, you never know what somebody's gone through. You got to be careful. A lot of all the criticism people have when you're pushing, when you have a person of color that's working for you, working with you, or a business owner, or just seeing the community, you never know what they've been through.
Yeah.
We need to be a little more cautious when we have our criticisms, when we're so quick to judge. Oh, that person's crazy. This person is this person is that. You don't know what that person's been through. I
Yeah.
can tell you that. I can tell, and we need to be careful when we so-called pop off on somebody, as they used to say, or go off on somebody, because you never know how close to the edge somebody might be.
Like what's that one song said? Don't
Don't
push
push
because
me because
I'm
I'm
close to
close
the
to the edge.
edge.
I'm
I'm
trying
above
to hip,
it.
lose my head. Come on, you know about that old school hip hop, right? You know about that Sugar Hill
Hey,
Gang.
yeah, when you said that, that's they were so right about that back then, because what you just said, that you never know what's going on with that person that day. They could snap. And
That
unfortunately,
look,
you be the one they snap on. You're gonna go, what did I say? You leave that brother alone, leave
you
that
better
sister
leave,
alone.
you better leave them alone. Or act of love, smile, say, hey, how you doing? Hope you're okay. Pray for it. Something positive. Or maybe not say nothing at all and keep it moving.
Well,
You know.
Well, my wife's having told me where she's working at right now. They do have some strange people that come in there, and but she help them out anyway. And I asked why. I say, because they come in here and go off. They know I'm the one that helped them out, so they won't be coming after me. I said, so somebody, what you gonna do? She said, they come in one door, I'm going out the other door.
That's right.
She already got her evacuation plan set up already. Which since I brought that up, I think everybody should be aware of their evacuation plan, even though if you're in Walmart, HEB, no matter where you're at, you should have a plan that something happens. You should be ready to go for it to get out.
Listen, listen. We talk about this all the time in our family, with other people. I always tell people, you got to always, nowadays, with the frequency of these shootings, you got to have your exit strategy. You got to think about, also, I'm going to take it even further. You got to think about some of these places that you're going to. You won't see Joseph taking his family to large gatherings anymore, right? Because if somebody starts to shooting or whatever, I don't want to be pent in somewhere. You always got to think about your exit strategy, and you got to think about where you're going nowadays.
Yeah.
And that's just a reality. It's sad that we got to do that, but it's real. Things where there's a lot, and I think as we move into this presidential election, because I'm telling you, it's going to be interesting. If 45 gets indicted, it's going to be a lot of upset people that maybe hear that subconscious call to a civil war. Some people are saying we're already in a civil war with your favorite politician, Majorie Green, the Green Machine, huh?
You know what? I hate to interrupt. I'm glad you brought that up. Do you know that lady had the audacity to put a divorce date and wanted the blue and red states separated because they could run better by themselves in the cluster. So she wants to break up the United States. In other words, she's drawing the Mason-Dixie line again. So,
Well, yeah.
but I'm just saying, so okay, let's say that happens. Just say it happens. So what happens if there's a major disaster? FEMA won't be there anymore. There's nobody to bail you out. And on top of that, if you want to draw that line again, do you know how many blacks is south of that Mason-Dixie line that you're going to say from now on, you in the South, this is going to be done? It's not going to happen. She's
Listen,
crazy.
let me tell you, period and point blank on this. We're not Russia, and those states are not Ukraine. We didn't try this before. If they want to try it again and see what happens. The problem with history is that if you forget it, it'll repeat itself.
Yes.
All I'm gonna do is in 2 words, all this succession stuff and leaving the country and all that. Remember Waco? They tried it too. It
Yeah.
ain't happening. It is not happening in the United States. And I will say this too. I took a vow years ago to defend against enemies foreign and domestic. And I know some people do too. It's time that we recognize and wake up and see who the true enemies of the state are. They're talking about breaking up our country at a time where I don't think is a good time for us to be weak. We got Putin talking about nuclear wars. We got Biden talking about this is the closest we've come to nuclear war since the Bay of Pigs in the Cold War. So now these lunatics, and I'm just calling it like I see it. These people are either mentally ill, deranged, or just flat out stupid, or a combination of the three. To be talking about succession because you don't like the policies based on some big lie that a lunatic has been saying, you need to be scheduling an appointment with me or another licensed therapist because your mind isn't right. The lack of disrespect, the entitlement of being able to yell to the president of the United States, you're a liar, and to not have any consequence of that, and to think you're going to be a running mate, it's time out. It's time out. Ethics, decorum, class, it has a place, and it needs to find its way in the Congress and the Senate. I don't know where these backwoods lunatics are coming from, but they need to go back to the rock they crawled under and go, yeah, I don't have a problem with you succeeding in your mind. I don't mind you succeeding, but you know what? Your tax dollars and our tax dollars have been going into this system, right? And don't mess with my Social Security now that I'm getting close. Now that I'm getting closer to it.
No, I'm there, and don't be messing with it because you know.
Don't be messing. Don't make me grab my MP15 to get out here in the Civil War because you ain't messing up my money as I'm getting close to 65. You better look, all these lunatics just talking all this stuff, right?
Yeah.
They got these people, right? You got to understand a delusional mind, right? Facts are alternative, right? So they can tell you whatever. That's what they believe, right? Facts are alternative. That was introduced under 45, this alternative facts thing. Because I say it, that's the way it is. You better start fact checking and thinking about the ramifications and implications because now they're starting to act on this foolishness. Look at them taking African American studies. They're taking African American studies out of places like Florida, trying to do it out in Texas. I'm going to tell you right now, fraternities, sororities, continue to get on your job and teach about our history. I know in the Kappa League, any Kappa League that I'm a part of, or Guide program, we're going to learn about our history. That critical race theory, whatever you want to call it, we're going to back it up with facts. We're going to back it up with the mindset that you need to have to move to this country because the president had told y'all, and we've been saying it for years, we have to teach our kids how to survive in this system. Part of that is understanding our history. And if you don't know that, you lost in the sauce and need to holler at me real quick. I'll give you a free session on why it's important to know our history. Why I call myself African American. And they're like, oh, you don't know nothing about Africa? Yeah, I may not know, but I do, right? But I do know that we had a lot of people that were lost in the Middle Passage. So when I call myself African American, I'm showing homage to them and letting this country know and the world know our history started before we got into this country. And there are some people that were lost that gave us the opportunity to be over here and be strong, right? So yes, slavery is a part of our history. And if we deny that, then we also deny the need for reparations that will someday have to be paid. And Veronica Brooks, and I think I shared it on my page, Maxine, so what is her last name? I don't want to mess it up. But my girl from Living Single, who's actually championing the cause of reparations.
Oh, yeah.
Past out there in California. And look, California is always a trendsetter in terms of politics that move throughout the country. So I know my family, based on this book, I think right back here, you can take a look at it. A City Within a City, another bit of Black history that you can take a look at, where my grandparents actually broke the red line and some other families that I know and love, the Franks, the triplets, the Adams families that formed at Auburn Hills and Grand Rapids when they weren't selling property to African Americans outside of the South Side. My grandparents and those folks that I just mentioned and others helped to pull together, and how they pulled it together, right? There's some secrets in how we were able to do that. I'm going to tell you the secret is we worked together. The church community, You read the book and see how we did that. But there's reparations because the city of Grand Rapids increased the property value so that we couldn't afford it, but we raised the money and bought the land. Okay. And I still own it. I still own our home up there in Michigan, right? We still are holding on to it. Now it's rented out because I'm down here in Texas, but it's still owned and managed by a company that's working for me, right? So bottom line is, it's important that we understand our history. We understand what's taken from us, both financially and also spiritually and emotionally. So that's what in Black history, we talking about some real Black history, right? So since they want to do, we got the psychological, financial. We've gone through some serious things in this country, and we're going to talk about it, and we're going to also hold those people accountable that are trying to continue on that legacy of exploitation. And look, Republican Party, we're looking right at you, right? We're looking right at DeSantis. Talk about taking education. Africa, it doesn't have educational value. Listen, real talk, we are the original educators. Look it up. And we need to know about our history. This country needs to know about African-American history because it is American history. And if you don't know it, you can always repeat. See, the thing they're talking about with this wokeness and all that, look, that's because we're holding the feet to the fire. Now the woke movement, yes, it has its issues. But thank God for the attempts to bring light to what people typically throw under the rug.
Yeah.
That's the only way we offset delusional mindsets and foolishness, by shining a light on what's going on. Now, you can disagree with it, but if I can back up with facts what's going on, then you're going to have to deal with it. Slavery happened. Psychological damage happened. Psychological and emotional things continue to happen because of the fact we haven't really had a psychological awakening to the damage that was done to us from slavery and afterwards. And it's people say, "Oh, just forget about it and move on." Is that how trauma works? Is that how damage works? Is that how intentional socioeconomic oppression and faulty media images? We wonder why so many things are haywire. Maybe it's because we've got a lot of unresolved issues in our community that we're going to have to deal with. If you can't heal, you sure can't deal. And if you can't deal, you sure can't love. Just think about it. Back in the 60s, when we had more of a sense of community, we had more of a village mindset, we had more of a communal mindset. When somebody went to college, everybody got money together to try to send that person off, because the hope was they would go back and put some work into the community. Whatever community they reside in, you should be doing something in the community to teach these kids. Divine Nine, I'm gonna call you out. If you're not doing anything, if your mentorship program is not up to par, you're not on point. That's especially right now. All of us have history we need to be instilling into these kids so they understand the struggles that went through to give them the opportunity to get a good education.
Yeah.
If you don't know, if these kids don't know about Brown versus Board of Education, you're dead wrong. And don't be surprised when we have to repeat it again. Because if they forget, that's exactly what they're trying to do by this separating the states. So what's going to happen to the educational system? What's going to happen to the kids if this succeeds and this is getting some momentum? I don't think it's going to happen, but the spirit of it, right? If I'm separate and I see a us them mentality, as we continue to see, the us, meaning whoever the us is, are going to have a different mindset in terms of understanding what the us them dynamic is about. And then we're going to have problems, making sure that other folks are getting the resources. And this is happening right now. Look at the disparities in education and costs because of the us them. The countries that are kicking our butt educationally, they see them all in that country as us. Now, there might be some differences, but they're making sure that the educational standard is pretty level across the board. That's how we make a difference. Back in the day, teachers used to come from the same community. They used to live in the same community. It was more of a us, not a us them. The more they push this us them dichotomy, this the division, you're going to have these problems. You're going to have these problems. It's always a us or it's always a them. And you know who benefits from that? Those lunatics up at the top that are just getting paid. But what they don't understand is, and Malcolm X said it best, you can keep doing this stuff, but eventually chickens are going to come home to roost. Remember he got in trouble about that?
Yep, I remember that.
You're living in a community. These bullets don't discriminate between us, them. You pull that trigger, it don't matter what color is on the other end. You get hit, you're going to die. Because we all bleed red.
You know, I'm bringing up something. Billie Holiday. Was it Billie Holiday? I'm gonna say it was her. At the time, the FBI told her to quit singing this one song.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Are you
Quit.
sure, you thought I was Billie Holiday to sing that song?
I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure. Let me double check on that.
Hey, go ahead. I'm a fact checkers right now.
Okay.
Mess this one up.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. Billie Holiday.
She sung that song "Strange Fruit."
Yes,
The
sir.
FBI turned around, told her stop singing that song. Well, she was in the hospital at the time. The FBI told hospital, do not do anything medical on her. In a few days, she passed away.
Mm-hmm.
I played that song yesterday, and the strange fruit was on a magnolia tree. Was black folks hung from that tree, and it was a nice, slow-paced song as she was explaining and going over everything. So that's the history they don't want everybody else to know about. She sung and was called Strange Fruit. And I thought it was beautiful the way she sung that song.
Look, we are still ending up as strange fruit.
Yeah.
It may not be in a tree necessarily, but through law enforcement, discrepancies,
Yeah.
through aggressive measures, we still are dying at a rate that's way too high, for where we should be. And the situation is complicated, but the result is still the same. And we have to be real about it. So I know I work hard working to educate our youth on how to avoid and try not to become strange fruit.
Yeah.
As well as becoming now strange fruit in other ways. Just think about what's going on with the rap community. How many rappers are killed? How many rappers are killed within the past couple of years? Just look it up. And so we've got strange fruit, which is talking about lynchings and the horrible atrocities that have happened to us and still continue to happen to us. But now we've got an assault on our youth in this rap game. Our people, the youngsters are coming up. As soon as they get signed, and even before they get signed, they're getting killed. We just had the 3 rappers in Detroit. They're just coming up, ambush style executions. And the story just continues to go on and on. So just look it up. There's so many to mention. You have to Google it, look it up.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter what level or stature they're at. We just had, Takeoff that was just taken from us in Houston. Being someplace he shouldn't have been. I really think they need to investigate that because I know a little bit about security and bodyguard. I have a family member that used to be a bodyguard, and there was a lot of things wrong with those 2 people being in that scene and being caught up in a situation where people were arguing where bullets started flying from each camp. It's something really wrong with that. And then you're shooting through the person you're supposed to be protecting, the people you're supposed to be protecting. So I think when they get done investigating that, there's a lot wrong with that whole scenario. And I'm not quite sure if it's just the people they have protecting them, or maybe it was, I don't want to get into conspiracies, but I do know it's a lot wrong with that. Look at how, perfect example, look at how Rihanna, when she got done singing, and and Michael Cohen was trying to talk to her, did you see how quickly she was being moved out of that area?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Those are professional bodyguards. So if you're an aspiring rapper or whatever the case may be, You better not have your so-called goons or whatever protecting you. You better have some professional people that know how to move you through a crowd and getting you to where you're going. And if you're a multi-millionaire, millionaire, whatever, you need to have professional people working for you. So if it's not a setup, it was not set up correctly for the stature of who those folks were. But at the same time, the rap industry in the whole right now, as a whole, I think it's got some serious, issues going on with how many people have been killed, and and why. And look at the industry. If I had a son, I wish I would allow my son to be a rapper right now. But no, you can't. You can't do it. It's not. It's not. It's not safe at all.
Yeah.
It's not
And
safe at all.
you know that when it's black on black crime, they just look at we're not gonna worry about investigating. It's black on black crime. They just turn their head to it.
Yeah.
They
Well,
don't care.
yeah. Thus the name Black Lives Matter, right? I mean, that's why that took such uh, a big leap in terms of need to put that out there. And I know a lot of people, including Kanye, which I still understand why he put White Lives Matter on the shirt. I know that I think that's part of the delusional mindset. But the reason the Black Lives Matter movement took such a hold is because Black lives are continually marginalized by law enforcement, by our own community. We have to say that because our lives have not been looked at the same by the American public, in ourselves included, right? So we have to tell ourselves. But again, that goes back to a psychological, foundation. We have to learn to love ourselves. We have to be in a healthy place because we were taught to hate ourselves. Remember Willie Lynch?
Yep.
Yeah, we were taught to hate ourselves. And some of those ramifications still are playing out today. Some of us are still on the plantation today, mentally. Some people are still on the plantation physically. Take a look at Angola prison. Look at the history of Angola prison. Angola prison used to be Angola plantation. And I'll be doggone, the only thing that's different is that the pictures now are in color. That's it. It's still Angola plantation. And the system is still set up to enslave. So that's a whole other thing to look at. Now, the positive note is, look at all the Black businesses that are starting. Look at all the young folks that are starting to get it. Pay attention to what politics are trying to do. That's part of the reason why there's so much pushback, because so many of us are starting to come up. But my warning about coming up, until you get your mind right, you're not going to come up and stay up.
Yeah.
Because look at what happens when you get money and access. If you have mental issues, those get broader as well. Okay, that's why so many people, seem to go crazy. They didn't go crazy; they were just already crazy, but they didn't have the funds to fund their crazy. All right, they had damage done, but then you see all these folks get money. So I don't want to talk about reparations. I do want to talk about reparations, but I need to make sure that we are sound mentally and actually have a plan of what to do with the reparations when they get there, buying land and starting businesses. And we're talking about some things about helping folks with that, which, I can't wait for that to continue to manifest.
Yeah.
All right, because you got to know what to do with it. And it's very important, because when you have financial empowerment, you have to understand what to do with the wealth. If my grandparents and the Franks and the triplets didn't know what to do with the wealth, we wouldn't have become landowners and homeowners.
Yeah. So true.
And that's affected generations of people because they made the right choices back in 1965. So they took the hit. And I think the hit comes out to about $284,000 that they were overcharged for the property. And oh yeah, remember that number, Michigan. I'll see you when I get back from Japan. It's going to be important. I'm doing the math to see what was taken from our families. Okay, so that's only the dollar amount. What about the psychological harm? What about the fact that you're in America being ostracized and oppressed by your own system. Start figuring out those numbers. Okay. And it's coming. We're going to have to deal with it. And that's what they're running from. See, you understand the psychological foundation of why things are the way they are. When you know something has been done wrong to somebody and you see in that person get stronger, that's going to imply and inflict a little fear. And we've been done wrong for a lot of time. Black, brown, we've been done wrong for a lot of time. But now we're starting to identify who is still participating in our oppression. And see, if you go and do some of these trips and travel and look at the trail, see, there's a place in Galveston we looked at. It's an attraction, but it was actually a plantation. And we go and they even have it listed up there how that money evolved from being a plantation to then going and investing that money that was exploited from people of color. And then they bought oil refineries and things of that nature. So we got a trail. We can go after that money. You don't have to go to the federal government. Look at the families that have benefited from slave labor and the businesses that have started up from that. And hey, we need our check.
Yes, I agree.
6.5 trillion, I think it was, that they came up with last year before. You know, we got enough accountants that can get that math right. And we're not talking about money that's just given. We're talking about money that's owed. So we're going to talk about it. You know, that'll take care of a lot of school loans, that 6.5 trillion. That'll take care of a lot of, that 40 acres and a mule. Yeah. What's the interest on that? You know, what's the interest on that now? Right. So we can talk about it. Let's go. You know, oh, that ain't going to happen. You dag right, it can happen. If we can send billions of dollars to the Ukraine, we get the right politicians in place. Let's start dropping this money right here in the United States. We don't need no handouts, but we do need our reparations, right? So with that being said, I want to give some psychological tips to folks that have teens that are struggling. Here's one of the books that I recommend for everybody that has teens, right? Sean Colby, phenomenal book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective Teens. One of the tools I use to help your teen to realize what they need to do to be successful, and also showing them the defective habits of unsuccessful or ineffective teens and trying to be successful. So that's one of the things we're going to get into here in the YouTube channel on how we can help these teens to be successful and giving them the tools and featuring some books and some of the tools that I use in therapy and helping our youth to be successful. And that GPS presentation that's patented, which is getting your priorities straight, help people to get from where they're at to where they're trying to go, or I think they want to go. That's going to be laid out there as well. So we'll be getting into some of that stuff too.
Okay. That sounds good. We need to get into some of that stuff.
Yep. We're going to start working on it and laying it out. And we'll be getting Martha on here and figuring out some things in terms of relationships and life coaching and all that type of stuff. So I'm excited on where we're headed.
I'm glad you brought up Martha. I talked to her the other day. She's visiting up in the Windy City, and I told her, you're going to some snow and ice up there, be ready. But we work things out with her that she'll be on once a month doing her show.
Outstanding.
So we work things out right there, and she wanted to do it, so it's not in writing, but it's verbally agreed upon that she'll be come on doing that. She did. We also mentioned maybe every once in a while both y'all be on together, collaborating together, and I think that's a great partnership. Y'all two and WSN Radio, we're gonna be blowing up people and stuff. But I think that's a good combination of one way of getting the word out with people, the mental health side and all that, just to get the word out, because it's a cliche that when I was growing up, Blacks didn't have mental health issues, but we did because it was like you said, in the home is in the closet. It was always somebody upstairs in the bedroom that you never went in that door. They were fed, everything was done. You stayed away from that person. But and then the same back then when you ask your grandma, uncle about that person, oh, they're just special. That was a word. They were just special. We didn't know
Mhm.
how special they were. Then one day you look up, this person come out the room and say, "Oh, who are you?" And that's your uncle or auntie or somebody.
Yeah.
And mental health was always in the Black community, but it was a hush hush mental health.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. It never was a case where we didn't have mental health issues. We just didn't have the money, the access, or we leaned on the church, which is not necessarily a bad thing to lean on the church for our counseling, for our mental health issues. We just used to give it to God, right? Give it to God. Go, and that's not a bad thing. But not all preachers are trained clinically on how to deal with mental health issues, right? And unfortunately, a lot of pastors have been sued because if they don't understand suicidal ideation, and yes, it can be some demonic forces in that, but it also could be some psychological issues with that. And if a pastor doesn't know how to help treat a person that is mentally ill, there can be some lawsuits. We have to, as clinicians, we have to know the signs of suicidal ideation and how to treat it. And when a person has to be placed on the ED. I don't know if it's a pastor, how many pastors had the ability to place somebody under an ED, which is an emergency detention, to make sure they're stable and come out of that delusional mindset in which they want to take their life or take other people's lives, right?
Yeah.
So we've got to understand it's important to infuse mental health awareness into our community so we know when things are off and then also know what to do about it, right? How to get them to help. And we have more tools out there now than ever to get quality healthcare options into homes, right? And COVID is one of the things that's one of the silver linings of COVID. I've been doing crisis care work since I left Michigan, but I never left Michigan because still have an office up there, still see clients up in Michigan virtually. And then once I get to Japan, I'm still going to be seeing clients here in the United States. So we have options. So the places like in Uvalde, when I did my research and I saw there really wasn't any viable mental health options there at the time. Now this is a way to get mental health options to Uvalde and places like that. Mental health care. I'm getting emails all the time about schools in Michigan and other places that have virtual schools that need mental health professionals that are licensed to provide access to mental health care.
Yeah.
So that's an avenue that politicians can start looking at to get quality health care into some of these places where there is none. As long as you got Wi-Fi, you have no reason why quality mental health care can't be put out there. There's places like BetterHelp. And I know some people think, well, that's not the same as an in-office environment. Well, I'll tell you what, if you don't have an office in your area, having access is a good option. Right?
Yeah.
So that's what we need to start looking at, getting quality licensed professionals to those areas and also some access to a mental health facility. People, if you have an emergency room, you at least have a mental health facility right there temporarily. If somebody is thinking about harming themselves or others, you can dial 988. That's now the suicide line that's out there in most communities. Check and make sure that that's a viable option in your area. And also the hospital.
Yeah.
I hate to put the hospitals on blast, but there's a thing there. If a person is thinking about harming themselves or harming others, they need to be placed on an ED, meaning that you call the police, tell them what that they've threatened the life of others, threatened to take their life, whatever, have a plan. Then they a lot of times be placed on an ED, take it to emergency room. Then they have to be evaluated by a mental health professional before they go back. So that can save lives if we use that system. But sitting there going, oh, they'll be okay. They're just having a bad day. Maybe the bad day is about to get a lot worse.
Yeah.
So that's what you call it. But I get it. You call 911. A lot of these, law enforcement aren't trained to deal with mental health issues. A lot of them are bringing more law enforcement. We talked about this last week. A lot of law enforcement offices are bringing police stations or whatever are bringing more mental health people on to the dispatching or going out with law enforcement to deal with mental health issues. And I think that's something we need to continue to push for.
Yeah.
But when you call on an issue like that, they know what to do and can help, right?
Yeah, I'm going over some things right here, comments coming through. This one right here caught my attention
Mm-hmm.
that over in the Black community in downtown San Antonio, we got homeless all around, but you don't see this in Stone Oak area. It's always in the Black community, homeless and everything. And we can answer that real quick. My personal opinion about that is because they filter away from there. They got people over there, they won't allow it to happen because the stigma is our community is not like this. There's a stigma out there right now. Somebody just wrote, let me see, away from asking for help as community. How can I put it? We have to stick up with mental health or something like that. In other words, the way I'm reading it is Blacks' mental health is we need to stick together with it and work with it. With white mental health, like you said, they have the resources, they have the money, they have all that take care of. But I spoke to somebody the other day, said, we have the resources here. And this was their remark they told me. The resources are here, but nobody knows about it. And that sort of caught me by, you mean we have the resources here? Nobody, I said, let me know what the resources are. I'll get the word out. So
Well,
apparently the money is here and the resources is here, but nobody knows how to tap into it. Why is that?
well, because number one, culturally, we are taught, like I said, what happens in this house stays in the house. So you don't know about it a lot of times because you're not looking.
Yeah.
That's the first thing. Second thing is some of the resources that you can look at. I mean, all you have to do is talk to a school counselor, talk to a therapist. We have the internet, take this thing and use it for something useful. Actually start looking up some of those resources. Impact counseling is here. I'm not taking on too many new clients, but I do make referrals to other therapists that are, right? Looking at resources like Psychology Today. It has all the therapists in your area. Type in your area and you'll see some faces that are maybe more approach. My slogan with Impact Counseling is counseling may not take if the youth can't relate. Find somebody that your child or you can relate to and see if they have something like sliding scale, right? And they take your insurance. So you can actually have counseling virtually. If you have internet access, you have access to mental health care nowadays. But you have to know where to look to get quality mental health care, right? Or life coaching. And sometimes it's just a matter of, or a combination of both. The reason I'm going to love working with Martha, she has both. She's trained as a life counselor and she's also trained therapeutically as well. So, we can work with that, right? Because she knows I'll be working on the psychosis side, the clinical side, as well as some life coaching. But when it's just life coaching, hey, we can get them to folks that can help keep you on track, help to keep you inspired. But that's what we're talking about. Finding folks that fit what you need and it's out there. So looking at Psychology Today, that's a resource that I refer all the time to. Getting on the internet, looking at places like BetterHelp and picking a practitioner that matches you. Now, BetterHelp I'm not sure if that's covered by folks' insurance, but it is an option.
Yeah.
But looking at a therapist to take a sliding scale, depending on the issue, you may be able to find some affordable counseling options for you. And you need to look at licensed folks that have some years of experience as well. But they do have some new therapists that are really good that are coming out that are trained, know how to recognize what's going on, and can help get people to a better place psychologically to heal and deal with what's going on and move forward and thrive, not just survive.
Right. Part of it is, I think our culture, we're too pride to ask for help because we're too busy. we're too busy making sure we have food on the table. We're paying bills. We're doing that. We're working, and
Mhm.
we negate on the pride part of it. I have a job. I'm working. I'm supporting my family. There's nothing wrong with me. But then you step back and you sit in that corner of the room saying, "Woe is me. What can I do?" And you sit down there and you pout and you cry. Then the next day you wake up and that pride gets away. I'm not going to ask for help. I'm okay. I got to go to work. I got to take care of my kids. I got to do that. So eventually down the line, you are going to have a breakdown because you can only do so much before enough is enough. So it's that
Yeah.
pride. It's that pride that gets in the way most of the time.
I want to focus on that point you just said. I think you just said a lot in that one statement. If you don't focus on mental health is going to focus on you. And when you said people have a breakdown eventually, well, take a look. That's why we have all these issues going on right now. That's why we had the issue. If you take a look at what happened at Michigan State, it didn't happen overnight. That man sat in that house getting worse and worse for a long time. He was introverted. He was bouncing around, going to different places, trying to get his life going. Ended up back at home. Mom passed away. That triggered him over the edge, right?
Yeah.
He actually, his mom passed away, and the fact that he got arrested, got a felony for carrying a concealed weapon. And in Michigan, you have to have, it's not like Texas, where you can walk around with a gun on your person, not being concealed. In Michigan, you have, if you conceal a weapon, you have to have a permit. So he got arrested for that. When he got done with that, and I'm not sure if his mother passed before that or after that, but those combination of things I think are what caused him to go over the edge. Now, when you see those types, I mean, it's almost like I'm seeing the same type of person over and over again, different culture, different ethnicity often now, same situation, disenfranchised, desperately in need of mental health. Because part of mental health is getting them to function better in society and to develop social skills on how to deal with stress, anxiety, depression, things of that nature.
Yeah.
So that's part of the solution, right? Because if you don't deal with the issue, if it's being physical or psychological, it's going to get worse. And then when it gets worse, this is the result, right? So, people say it's not, on the right side, on the right, they always say, oh, it's not the gun, it's the person. Well, no, it's actually the mental illness. It's the mindset, it's the culture. And it's also the gun.
Yeah.
It's also it's a combination of it. So let's not split hairs on anymore on is it the gun or is it the person? It's a combination, right? But I tell you what, if you don't have access to the guns as much and you don't have the issue. That's why when I'm going over to Japan, they don't allow you to bring certain they don't allow you to bring firearms and all that because they understand if you don't have the item that's causing the problem, you're not going to have the problem. Why is that such a hard thing for us to figure out? That in the United States. Oh, I know, greed, fear,
Greed.
and phobia. And I think you know which one is most responsible is the greed
Right.
part. And you can look at the NRA for that, right?
You just said Japan, and I read up on that a few years ago. Japan is one of the few countries that even policemen don't carry guns.
Can you imagine that? I can't wait to experience that, man. Can't wait to experience. I've never lived in a society that hasn't been policed like that. That hasn't been policed like that.
Yeah.
That's one of the things I can't wait to experience that culture and see the difference. And we'll be reporting that right on this show and on the YouTube channel, what it's like to see how that affects one psychologically, to not have to worry about when the police pull behind you.
Yeah.
And we all know, especially as Black men, we all know that feeling, right? And not just Black men, black people of color, period, women or men.
Yeah.
When them red and blues come on behind you, we go through something.
Oh yeah, that negative thoughts and am I going to be the next victim?
It is what it is.
Yeah.
And you know, and not saying, and I don't ever want this show to be about bashing all police officers, because all police officers are not bad. They're not. I know I've turned, like I say again and again, I got fraternity brothers at every level of law enforcement, local, federal, got it, you know, and I do believe, from what I've seen, they have done excellent work. Some of them even retired, have done nothing but excellent work at the highest moral standard that I know, and got in for the right reason. But there are others, and those others are the ones that are doing some of those other things that are causing them to get, hopefully, and get charged and convicted of the heinous crimes that they're doing.
Yeah.
And I don't know what the solution is, but I do know part of it is changing the culture, education, and in some cases, bringing on some more mental health folks that can help to de-escalate, train folks on how to de-escalate somebody who's thinking about doing something wrong, because they already have the authority to place somebody under an ED. I say once a person has gotten an ED, emergency detention, as I said, placed on them, a warrant, I believe, needs to be given. You need to search their home for everything, any type of firearm. They don't need to come home from a mental health facility and have access to firearms. I mean, is that insane? No, that's common sense. That's common sense, right? You know,
Yeah.
all mental health professionals know when we have a person that we place under an ED or say that they have to go inpatient, one of the things we say is that when they come home, make sure they don't have access to medication that they're not supposed to be taking, knives, firearms, anything like that. That's protocol. At least it's protocol for me when I, you know, work with somebody that has suicidal, homicidal ideation. And because of that, I've been doing this for 15 years. I haven't had one person that has committed suicide or went out and killed somebody. Thank God.
Amen to that, brother.
So that's the technique. I'm telling you what's worked, because I've been doing this for 15 years. And I'm gonna tell you something, parents, your kids have to pay for privacy. You need to be checking everything occasionally. Let them have their space, but privacy, I don't know, because we got some serious threats on these things.
Yeah,
And
we
they
do.
are depending on your misguided view of privacy. I didn't have too much privacy when I was young. I couldn't even, you better not shut that door unless you changing your clothes. And we
I
didn't have the internet back then.
we sure did. We have nothing. We had a book to read in a newspaper.
Yeah. So a
And
lot of people,
we
yeah.
had back then we had our black magazines, Ebony and Jet. We couldn't wait for the magazines to come out and
Yeah.
read it.
Come on now.
You know,
But
we read back then, you know.
we read, and because we read, we were developing a skill set, and the information we were reading was going through a lot more scrutiny than what's out here right now. Anybody can put anything on social media, and it's hard for, I believe, a lot of our youth to differentiate what's factual, what's wisdom, and what's garbage. And like I look at these guys, look at what's popular on social media, and they got this one, you got Blueface and his girlfriend, I forget her name. You're watching, they call it the modern day Whitney and Bobby.
Yeah.
And it's just sad, man, to see that play out the way it's playing out. I guess Chris Brown said something about Blueface and I forget her name now. And it's just sad, to see what we allow, and how he talks about his girlfriend. I can't think of her name right now, but I think in one of the episodes she's getting thrown out of a house that Blueface owns because they don't want to work with her as an artist anymore, and just the way he degrades these young ladies and publicly showing dysfunctional relationships. That's not what you aspire to, but because of the attention that they're getting, I wonder how many young ladies are thinking, "Oh, this is what relationships are supposed to be." Guys think, "Oh, this is how I'm supposed to treat a young lady."
Yeah.
Man, let me tell you, uh, I'm a therapist, but I have a daughter, and I keep my bail money ready. So don't don't get it twisted. We still got
Yeah.
some real fathers out here, and don't lay hands on mine unless you want daddy coming for you. And I'm too old to fight, but I aim very well. I hate to say that, put it like that. But put it like that. I'm not playing about my baby, right? And that's just the way it is. And there's fathers like that out there, right? So I know we kind of being inconsistent talking about violence, but I'm very inconsistent when it comes to violence, when it comes to my protecting my family. I'm very much in the Malcolm X mindset. I'm trying to be as peaceful as possible. But if you put your hands on me or anybody I love, you're going to have a problem. I'm going to get your mind rate one way or the other. I can do it with these books. I can do it with these hands, or I can do it Mr. Mossberg, 590. And you can figure that out the right way. You know, you look it up.
As that one comedian said, I was strong enough just to pick up my Smith and Wesson.
That's right. And I got three different versions, two different versions of Smith and Wesson in my house. You know what I'm saying?
It's just like we said in the beginning, don't push me because I'm close to the edge.
I'm trying not to
lose my head.
Now, that's psychology right there. We can stop right
there.
I can help you not to lose your head, right?
Yeah.
You know, don't push them because hey, I can't get to everybody. We can't. We have a shortage of a therapist. Most therapists now have a 6-month waiting list.
Boy, that's something else.
You got to think about it. 6-month waiting list for a lot of therapists. Now, some agencies don't have that long, but you know, I've been back, man. My waiting list is so long. I'm sick of looking at it. I don't, you know, that's why I'm trying to get all these other folks in here that can help out.
Yeah.
It's something, man. But I will say though, the good news is the people reaching out give me some hope because that lets me know people are understanding they need help.
Right.
And that we can at least at some point balance that out a little bit more. So I'm trying to get creative, trying to get some mental health facts out here and some resources like, you know, stuff like this. You can go on YouTube, on Amazon and get this, and got to get my sister's book. I mean, this is going to help a lot of young ladies and a lot of young men that have gone through horrific things to know that they can heal and there's a warrior within. So I'm so proud of her, so proud of this book. And what I'm reading so far, I only got up to chapter 6, but I will be finishing this by the end of the day because I will be recommending this book is a therapeutic tool for girls that have gone through similar things or boys that have gone through similar things. And the worst thing you can do is to hold that trauma in.
Amen.
Let it out so that we can get prosecutors. And I'm telling you, as a therapist, one of the things I always say is if you talk about self-harm, somebody harming you, or you harming somebody else, I've got to get help. And I have never, in almost 20 years doing this, had a family be mad that I've had to breach confidentiality and get help when there's a case of self-harm, a predator, sexual predator, or whatever going on. And even the predator has not regretted getting help or even possibly being incarcerated.
Yes.
Because a lot of times they have been molested. A lot of times they have gone through some things. And sometimes they're just predators. I'm not going to say it's always a psychological harm. Sometimes they just need to be locked up or,
Yeah.
I'll just leave it at that. Or, or, you know what I'm saying? We do have
Yeah.
monsters in our communities, period. And I don't care if they're made or if they self-chose to be a monster. They got to be exposed so they can be dealt with. We got some nice laws on the books. We have some place to put people that are preying on our kids.
Yeah.
So I'll leave it at that.
Okay, brother. Well, we did pretty good. Only 5 minutes over today. We're all right.
Yeah, well, that's good stuff, that we talking about. So I'll go a little over for that. But remember, your action speaks so loudly, can't hear a word you're saying. I'll listen to the words, but I'm watching what you do more than what you say, right?
Yes. Mr. Joseph Lee, I appreciate your time coming on. And I'll be catching up with you down the line because we always doing something.
Yeah, man, it is, and I'm proud to be working with you, brother, and love what you're doing. Keep it up, keep growing. Can't wait for that grand opening of the station. And
yeah, we got the date tentatively set. I'm not going to say it yet, but we got things working. Matter of fact, Friday should be our cleanup day there. So that means all the painting's done, all the molding's up, everything's done. It's cleanup Friday, and so we're looking at next week sometime starting to move equipment in and getting things going.
All right. So, looking forward to seeing it get launched, man. So see if I can make my way over there and put a pause in this crazy schedule.
All right, brother. I appreciate it.
All right. Talk to you soon. God bless.
All right, bless. Bye-bye. All right, that was Joseph Lee right here on